category that I talked about, L1, it's just like that. The only two differences, one is a green card, one is temporary, and the other one is you can't do it for a new office. But that's the category that you're in if you're doing the EB1. Second preference, this is if you have a advanced degree, meaning a master's degree or higher. Now in this one, like I said before, with green card, you cannot change experience into a degree like you can with H-1B. But here you can do something similar. In the advanced degree, the second category, say suppose I find an employer. Okay, so this is for green card. This is not temporary. This is a green card category. Okay, and it's current for worldwide. So it doesn't take that long, maybe a year and a half, because you have to do 3 steps to get to the end. But say I have an employer that's willing to hire me, and say they're going to hire me as an engineering manager. Okay, and say that requires, you know, a master's degree in engineering. But I don't have a master's degree in engineering. So how am I going to be able to qualify? So for this category, what you can do is, you can say, if a person has a bachelor's degree, a 4-year degree, okay, not 3-year degree, a 4-year degree, and 5 years progressive experience in engineering. So say I have a bachelor's degree in engineering, okay, from back home, and say I have more than 5 years of experience in engineering, okay, then I will qualify for this. Even though it says that I need a master's, I can still qualify for EB2, okay? The good thing about why people want to get into EB2 is because with the third category, sometimes, right now it's only 4 months, but sometimes it's been backlogged a lot more. So a lot of people want to get an EB2. They come to me and they say, I have a master's degree or I have a bachelor's degree plus 5 years, get me EB2. And I ask them, what's the position? And they say it's an accountant. I say, I can't get you EB2 then, because that position doesn't require a master's degree. So not only do I need the background to qualify, but I need the position to also require a master's degree, okay? EB3 is the skilled worker or professional category. This is anything that requires at least 2 years of experience or a bachelor's degree is going to be in this category, and it's not that long a wait, 4 months. The fourth one is not used that often for religious workers. And the fifth one is something that they talk about a lot, but not that many people can qualify for it. That's EB5. That's if I invest $1 million or $500,000 in certain areas, I can get a green card. So a lot of people say that I want to do this, and I stick them in the EB1 category because EB1, you don't need to invest all that money. And it's better than the EB5. EB5, you only get a temporary, you get a conditional green card. 2 years, and then you have to remove it. You don't have to do that with the EB1. So, you know, I'm not going to talk about EB5 much, but I mean, if you have questions, you can ask me on that. But that's something that people talk about a lot. It's in the news a lot.
Sorry, I'm breaking the protocol, but praise God. Praise God. And some of us seated here, we may have millions of dollars in Nigeria, and we are not in status. You said $500,000. It used to be like 250 before, right? Okay. But, okay. It's $500,000 or $1 million? So, okay. What is the process? Because I have somebody now who probably will be interested in that. He's in Nigeria, but what is the process? Somebody wants to come with about $500,000. What will he have to do? You know, and what kind of investment must he do in this place? I have somebody in Germany right now who wants to relocate to Texas, but what can he do? He's looking for a trucking company or so. Can that work?
So for EB5, the process for any of these visas, like I said, if you're out of status, you're probably out of luck for these categories. There's a few exceptions, and we'll talk about them, but if you're going to remain in the country, then you have to be in status when you're filing for it. If you're out of the country, then that's fine. You know, if you don't have any unlawful presence, you can do that. But for EB5, the first step for EB5 is called the I-526. It takes about 12 to 15 months. So you cannot stay here while it's pending. If you're going to be here in some other status, then that's fine. You know, F1 or L1 or something like that, that's okay. But the EB-5, the first step takes 15 months. If you're going to do the $500,000 option, you have to invest in what's called a targeted employment area. That's a TEA. That means that the unemployment rate is 150% of what the normal rate is. What you have to do for EB-5 is you have to invest that money, and you have to show that you would create 10 full-time jobs within a 2-year period. Okay? 10 full-time jobs, right, within 2-year period. So a trucking company, I don't know why you would invest $500,000 in a trucking company. Would that create the 10 full-time jobs? That's a difficult question. I mean, we'd have to look at and see what the plan is and. Okay. Sure. Right.
Germany, and he's thinking that if he could buy an existing company right here and go into it, I mean, he could if he has about 20 trucks and he employ people here. Okay. Okay.
Remember what I said. Remember what I said earlier. A lot of people come to me and say EB-5, EB-5 because that's what they hear about. And then what did I say? I said, why don't you try EB-1? You don't have to do the $1 million. You don't have to do the $500,000. He has a trucking company over there. He can open a trucking company over here, and he'll do L1 or EB-1, right? And you don't have to have the $1 million. You don't have to have the $500,000. You don't have to buy 20 trucks, right? All you have to have is the structure in place to show that you're going to be an executive or a manager. And that is much better, like I said, because you don't have to have that investment, and because if you do the EB-1, you get an unconditional green card. With an EB-5, you get a 2-year conditional green card. Before the 2 years expires, you have to show that you created the 10 full-time jobs. If you didn't, you lose the green card. So you invested all that money, and then 2 years later, you have nothing to show for it, right? So that's why EB-1 and L1, I like those a lot better, because you don't have to show the amount of investment that you do for a green card, and you can still get a green card that's even better than the one in EB-5. Okay? So asylum and refugee, that's something I get a lot as far as questions. The difference between asylum and refugee is that asylum you file while you're in the country here. Refugee you apply from outside of the country. With the asylum, you have to show that you suffered persecution, okay, or fear that you will suffer persecution because of one of 5 reasons: race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or social group. So a lot of people will come to me and say, I'm from this country, there's a lot of violence there. You know, I'm scared to go back. Can I get asylum? And the answer is, if it's general violence, it's sad, but that's not going to qualify you for asylum. Asylum is something that is very difficult to get. It's not that easy. A lot of people think it's easy. But what happens is, if you don't have the proof documentation, okay, if you don't have newspaper articles and hospital reports and police reports and affidavits and proof that you're in one of these groups that qualify you, then you probably won't get asylum. And what's going to happen is, if you file for asylum, you're going to wait 2.5 years for an interview, and then you'll get denied if you don't have the proof, and then they're going to put you in deportation. And deportation may take you 5 more years. And you're waiting all that time, and eventually, if you don't have the proof, you're going to lose, okay? So it's important with asylum, 2 things. Number 1, have the proof about you being specifically targeted for one of those reasons. And 2, you have to file within 1 year of coming to the country. Because if you don't, then asylum becomes that much harder, okay? If I had to guess, you know, because I've been doing asylum and stuff since 2003, I would guess that the denial rate for asylum is probably 90%. Because there's a lot of cases that shouldn't be filed, okay? And it's a very hard standard. It's not easy, and you have to have documentation. So it doesn't mean that all of the cases are going to be approved. I've had cases approved where I had no doubt that it was going to be denied, but it got approved anyways. I don't know how. But but you have to have that documentation to do it. And you have to do it within 1 year. If you don't do it within 1 year, it becomes 99% denial rate. Okay? So that's for asylum. For refugee, if you're out of the country and you're persecuted for one of those 5 reasons, and you're not firmly in another country resettled, then you can get refugee status. The U visa is something that I get questions on a lot too. That's one of the exceptions to the rule that if I'm out of status, I can't get anything. If I'm out of status, say I came in 10 years ago on a visitor visa and I stayed. I don't have any status. I can't get a driver's license. I can't get a social security card, but I work. Okay? I work somewhere and something happens and there's a crime, a violent crime, and I get hurt. Okay? I get shot or something like that. Okay? I can get a U visa. All right? U visa is I'm a victim of a violent crime, and I've suffered some kind of, either physical or mental, it says abuse, but that's not really the word. Substantial injury, something like that. Okay? So I got shot. I was in the hospital. I can show that I qualify for the U visa. Doesn't matter if I'm out of status. I can get a U visa, and then I'll get it for 3 years. At the end of the 3 years, I can file for green card. I have a guy right now in my I have his case, and he just became a citizen last month. I started him from a U visa. He had no status. He got a U visa. He got a green card. Now he got citizenship, and we've brought 2 of his daughters here already, and we're about to bring one of his sons here. So, it started from U visa and he had no status. So that's one of the exceptions to the rule. If you don't have status and you qualify for the U visa, then you can get that. And then you can qualify, you can file for family members too. So that's the U visa. Next one, VAWA, which is the Violence Against Women Act. It's not all for women. This is Men's Week. So it counts for men too, okay? I've done it for men. It works. If you are a battered spouse of a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, then you can file for yourself. And this, again, is an exception. If I don't have status, say I came in as a visitor visa and it expired, okay, I don't have any status and I got married, okay? And I got married to a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, all right? And they never filed for me. They locked me in a room somewhere, and they never filed for my green card because they weren't going to do that for me. Well, I get out of the room, okay, and I can document that I've been battered, and I file for a green card myself, and I can get a green card myself. Okay? If I'm married to a green card holder, it's going to take a little bit more time because remember the category 2A, which is about 2 years, but it moves a lot. So I have one case in my office right now where we had to wait a little bit. Her case got approved, her VAWA case got approved a few months ago, but we had to wait because it was a green card holder, but now we're filing this month. So, I mean, she didn't have to wait that long, even though it was a 2-year wait. There's changes, like I said. But that works for a battered spouse. That works for a battered child by a U.S. citizen or a green card holder parent, or a battered parent who was battered by their U.S. citizen son or daughter. Okay, so there's a different categories there. And it even works if you're married to someone that never told you they're actually married to someone else. It's not really a legal marriage, but for this category, it actually works. So that's another exception to the rule where you can get status even though you don't have it. Yes.
So somebody he lied to you. Oh, he has to beat you up. Okay. So that's what I want to. I thought probably he lied to me. Lying alone should be.
Correct that. So not necessary that he has to beat me up, but they treated me verbally, emotional abuse. Okay, so he insulted me all the time and cursed at me and did all of that, and for immigration rules, it's not necessary that it has to be husband and wife anymore, right? So it can just be a spouse. So that can qualify also. But does that answer your question? Yeah. Right. Well, you have to see for those kinds of cases, the most important thing is how do you show the abuse, right? How do you show it? A mark on my arm is not really going to show it, okay? Yeah, right. But you're going to have to. For documentation, for immigration, you have to convince them. So there's no such thing as a silver bullet, right? You can't just say, oh, he lied to me and that's the only thing my case is based on. You're going to have to give them more. If you give them this much stuff, then it may be enough. If you just give them one thing, it may not be enough. So, for example, my advice in those kinds of cases is that this person who's lied to should go to a therapist, go to a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever you want to call it, psychiatrist, and get a record and show that, look, they've caused me mental suffering. Talk to the therapist, make appointments over and over again, and then you make a record, and then you show that record when you file for that case, right? If you just say he lied to me and you don't have any documentation that shows abuse, mental or physical, then you're not going to be able to get the case. But if you do that, then you're going to be okay. Okay? All right. All right, so deferred action, DACA, is something that came out in 2012, all right? And it's an exception to the rule where if you are out of status, you can get something. But this type of status is the lowest type of status you can get. This is not a visa. This is not a green card, okay? This is deferred action. Deferred action means you're not going to be deported. That's all it means. Right now, while you have DACA, it means you're not going to be deported. So President Obama announced this in 2012, and it said it was basically for childhood arrivals. So it's deferred action for childhood arrivals. It said that if I came in the country at the age of 15 or earlier, so before the age of 16, I came into the country, and I've been here for 5 years when that plan was introduced, which was June 15, 2012. So that means I was 10 years old when I came in, and I came in 2006. So it was before 2007, June 15th. And I've been here the whole time. I've never left. I went to high school, or I'm in high school, and I haven't been convicted of any serious crimes. Then I can get deferred action. Even now, that program is there even now. Okay? I have people who are filing for it the third time. It's the third renewal. You get it for 2 years. You can extend it for another 2 years and another 2 years now. Okay? So this is something that was there in 2012. This is not the plan that was blocked. What was blocked was 2 years ago when President Obama talked about another plan and said that for this one, you don't have to be here from 2007. You can be here from 2010, okay? And it was in 2015. So you were here from 2010, and you can be older than 30 as of that date. So he expanded this plan a little bit, and they blocked it in the Supreme Court. They blocked it at the lower court. It went to the Fifth Circuit, and then it went to the Supreme Court, and they said that that plan is blocked. The other thing that was blocked was the one that was for parents. DAPA, which is Deferred Action for Parental Accountability, said that if I'm a parent and I'm out of status and I have no status in this country, but I am a parent of a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, okay, Remember, for that category, immediate relative, you need one thing. You need legal entry. So say I'm a parent of a U.S. citizen, but I came into the country illegally. Okay? Not the same as coming on a visitor visa and then staying out of status. That's fine. You can get a green card that way. But I didn't do that. I came in illegally. Okay? And my son was born here, or my daughter was born here, and they're a citizen. That program was going to give me deferred action, which again, deferred action is not much, but it can get you a work permit for people who don't have status. That's something. And it says I'm not going to be removed, okay, for 2 years. So that plan was introduced, and it was blocked at a court in Brownsville, and then it went to the Fifth Circuit. It stayed, the block stayed, and then the Supreme Court was 4-4 because one of the justices died, so they didn't make a decision, and it's still blocked. So that's not going to happen this year. Next year we'll see, depends on who the president is, what they're going to do, but this just shows you that the president's power is not that much when it comes to immigration. If Congress doesn't want to do something, it's probably not going to happen. Because President Bush wanted to do immigration reform, President Obama wanted to do immigration reform, Hillary says she wants to do immigration reform, but it's not up to them. It's up to Congress. Okay? So DAPA is still blocked by the courts, and it's probably not going to happen anytime soon, but we'll see. I mean, depends on who the president is. Yes?
Faster.
Trump said he's going to deport everybody. That's impossible, right? Except the Congress allows him to do that.
Well, yes, but Congress has to come up with the money to have enough officers to come after 15 million people. There's 12, who knows what the real number is? Because no one's going to say, yes, I'm one, okay? So they're not going to say that. So we don't know. We just go by numbers that they say, 12 to 15 million people. President Obama has achieved record highs for deportation. They've deported more people under his presidency than any other president ever, okay? But they still can't deport everybody because they just don't have the money to do that. They have to focus on certain groups, okay? So Trump says he wants to do it. It's not going to happen. They just don't have the manpower to do it. And Congress is not going to give him all that money to do that. So, yeah, we'll see who the president is, okay? All right. So the next one is 245I. Okay, so this is a big exception to if I'm illegal, can I get a green card? Okay? The other ones, again, there was a few exceptions, but this is the main one. All right? So what this says is I came into the country in 99. Okay? So what this says is that you had to be here December of 2000. All right? Number two, the second requirement says I need to be in the U.S. December of 2000. So I was here in 99. All right? And I came in on a visitor visa, and I had my brother or sister who's a citizen file for me. Okay, remember, it's a 12 to 15 year wait, right? And I'm not allowed to stay here the whole time, but I did anyways. All right? So I've been here since then, and now my case is finally coming to the end of the line with the 12 years. And I told you that if you stay illegal, then even if you wait that time, you still cannot use it. But 245I, if I qualify for it, then I can. All right? So 245I says that I was here December of 2000, which I was here in 99. And then my brother filed for me before April 30th, 2001. Okay? So this is something that, it's still used, but not that many people can use it because it's very old, right? I had to be here in 2000. I had to file a petition by 2001. Most people who are out of status, they've come in 2006 or 2007. They wouldn't qualify for this. But I'm one of those ones who did. I waited the entire 12 to 15 year wait for my brother's petition. I'm still here. I still have no status. And I can use this because I qualify under this rule, and I can file for a green card in the country, okay, without leaving, and I just have to pay a penalty of $1,000. Okay? So you have to meet all the requirements for 245I for me to do that. Otherwise, I would not be able to get a green card in the country. I would have to leave the country and try to come back in. But the problem is, if I'm out of status for more than 1 year and I leave, I can't come back for 10 years. Okay? Now there's the last slide on here, which is a waiver to that, and we'll talk about it. But if I don't qualify for that waiver, then if I leave the country, I can't come back. So this was something for those who qualified. They can pay a penalty and they don't have to leave the country. The good thing about this one is it's like a 245I, I say, is like a good disease. If I have it, I pass it on to my children, I pass it on to my spouse, and they would qualify for it also. Okay? So if my brother filed for me, okay, and I was married, and later on I get divorced, my spouse can use that on her own. Not that petition. She would have to do something else, but she can still use 245I to say that, say for example, she gets an employer, okay? She gets an employer and sponsors her, and she's illegal, so normally she would not be able to get a green card because she's in the country illegal. But because she was married to me and we filed this petition, or my brother filed a petition for me, she got 245I also. So that means that when her employer's petition comes through, she can pay a $1,000 penalty and get a green card. Okay, just because it transferred to her. Same thing with kids also. Under 21 and unmarried, it's gonna go to them also. Okay, so that's 245I. Next slide is the diversity visa lottery, and that is available for people from certain countries that are not as represented in the U.S. So you'll see the ones for this year that are not allowed to do it. On there is Nigeria. There's other countries on there as well, but they wouldn't qualify for the diversity visa lottery. So for diversity visa, you have the specific requirements, and if say suppose I'm in the country, and again I'm illegal, okay? Can I file for a diversity visa? No, because I don't qualify for adjustment. But what if I've been here a long time and I qualify for 245I? Then I can. Remember, 245I is that exception to that rule for green card. I can pay the penalty if I qualified for it, and then I can get it. Okay? But I have to meet the requirements for DV, and I have to get lucky. It's a lottery, right? So you have to get a lot of luck in diversity visa to be able to get it. The next one, naturalization. Pastor, should I spend some time on this? I mean, this is, yeah. Yeah, okay, so naturalization, there are 7 requirements, okay? You have to have good moral character, which means no criminal history or probation, and usually it's the last 5 years. But if you have a serious crime outside of the 5 years, they can look at that also, and they can say you don't qualify. But, you know, for the most part, they'll look in the 5 years. You have to be over the age of 18, okay? And I'll cover if someone is under 18, how they get citizenship. You have to be a green card holder for 3 or 5 years. So this is, if I'm married to a U.S. citizen, and I've been married to a U.S. citizen for more than 3 years, then I can file for citizenship after 3 years of being a green card holder. Okay? So it's actually 90 days earlier. So if I'm married to a U.S. citizen for at least 3 years and I've been a green card holder for 2 years and 9 months, I can file for citizenship. I can file for naturalization. Everybody else is 5 years. Okay? So it's 90 days again earlier, so 4 years and 9 months. All right? So if I'm not married to a U.S. citizen, I have a green card for 4 years and 9 months, I can file for citizenship. Okay? I have to meet all the other requirements, but that's one of them. Okay? The other requirement is that I have to show that I've been here in the U.S. at least half the time. So that means that if I do it based on the 3 years, I need to show that I was in the country at least for 18 months. Physical presence combined, all together. Okay? And the other requirement is that in that 5 years or 3 years, I cannot have any trips for 6 months or longer at a time. So let me give you an example. I've been a green card holder for 4 years and 9 months. Okay, I'm not married to a U.S. citizen, and I go to Nigeria for 5 months and 5.5 months, and then I come back for 1 week, and I go for 5.5 months, and I come back for 1 week, and I go for 5.5 months, and I do this for the whole time, for 4 years and 9 months. Am I going to get citizenship at the end of 5 years? No, because I failed the first requirement, which is physical presence. I have to be here physically in the U.S. for at least half the time. So out of the 5 years, that's like 912 days. I need to be here at least that much time. Not in a row, but all together out of the 5 years. And then no trips can be 6 months or longer in the 5 years. Okay? So that's naturalization. Now, for a person who's under 18, they can't file for citizenship. So suppose I'm a green card holder and my son is 16 and he's a green card holder. Okay? I can't file for citizenship for him, but say I meet all the requirements. All right? I'm going to file for citizenship. When I get it, if his mother is at least a green card holder, then he's going to get citizenship automatically. It's called the Child Citizenship Act. If I get citizenship and I'm a green card holder and my son or daughter under 18 is a green card holder also, they're going to get citizenship automatically. So how do you prove that? Because they didn't do an interview, they didn't file anything, but they're automatically a citizen. How do you get proof? So there's 2 ways to do it. One way I would definitely not suggest. That's filing for a certificate of citizenship. It takes 8 months to a year because not that many people do it and they just don't devote much time to it. It costs money and you're just going to get a certificate, okay? The other way to prove you're a citizen is file for a passport. So if I became a citizen and my son was underage and a green card holder, I just apply for their passport directly and they have proof that they're a citizen. Okay? So that's naturalization. Real quick, I think there's two more slides left. Conditional green card is, in the family-based sense, is going to be if I get married, say I'm illegal again. I mean, I don't know why I keep putting myself in that position, but I'm illegal again, and I get married, okay? I've been married for a few months, and I filed for a green card. And the green card interview comes after 8-9 months, so I've only been married about a year, right? And when I get my green card, when it gets approved, I'm going to get a conditional green card, okay? Because I've been married less than 2 years. When my green card gets approved, I'm going to get a conditional green card. What that means is that it's going to expire in 2 years, and I have to file for something to remove the condition. Before the 2 years expires, in the 90-day window before the 2 years, I'm going to file a petition to remove that condition, okay? What if I'm not married when that 2 years comes? I can still file for it as long as I can prove it's a real marriage. How do you prove it's a real marriage? Same way I proved it before for the green card. You have things in both names: bank statements, car insurance, utility bills. That's how you, tax returns, those how you prove. You know, if we took trips together, anything with both names, that's how you prove it's a real marriage for immigration purposes. So I proved it was a real marriage. I can remove the condition, and I got my unconditional green card, and then I can file for citizenship 4 years and 9 months from the date on the green card, because I'm not married to a U.S. citizen anymore, right? The other way to do it is if my spouse died and it was a good faith marriage, or if I was subject to battery or extreme cruelty. Again, you can remove the condition without, showing that you're still married. Or the last one, which was if I get removed, it's going to have extreme hardship, and that's much harder to do than it sounds. Extreme hardship, we'll talk about in the next slide, is a very high standard. All right, I think we move on to the last slide. The last slide is a waiver. So basically, remember what I told you, that I came into the country illegally. I crossed the border, and I'm married to a U.S. citizen, right? I told you the one thing you need for this category is legal entry, and I don't have it. And that means that I file for a green card or I file the petition, and I won't be able to get a green card in this country, but I can leave the country and get a green card or immigrant visa, which is a green card, and come back. But the problem is that I'm illegal here, so that means if I leave the country, if I've been here for more than 1 year and I leave the country, I can't come back for 10 years. This waiver, this provisional waiver, allows me, so what used to happen before is, years ago before they changed this, is that if I was married to a U.S. citizen and I was illegal, I came into the country illegally, and I filed for the green card through my spouse, then when it's time for my interview outside of the country, I would leave, and then they say, okay, now you can file for this waiver. The waiver requires extreme hardship. So say my spouse is very sick. Okay, she's very sick and she needs me to take care of her. So I would leave the country and I would go for my interview, and they would say, okay, you've been here illegal or in the US illegal, you can't go back, file for this waiver. Sit here for 1 year while the waiver takes its time. So what they did a couple of years ago was they changed this, where it doesn't make any sense to make this person wait for 1 year outside of the country. So what they did was they said that you can file for this waiver here in the country before your interview. Wait for it. When it gets approved, then go for your interview, and then come right back. Okay? So what they did with this waiver is they allowed you to file for it here, and then when it gets approved, then you can go there for your interview and you can come back. The problem with this waiver is that it's not easy to get. You have to show extreme hardship to the relative, not to you. So if I'm the person who's illegal and I'm filing, I can show that my spouse is very, very sick, so extreme hardship to her if I'm not here, because who's going to take care of her? And then I file for this waiver, and then I go for my interview and I come back. The last few months, in August 25th, I think, they expanded this waiver, where before it used to be just, my spouse is sick. Now it can be children, it can be green card holder, spouse, it can be all of those relatives on that family chart I told you about. But you still have to show extreme hardship. What we were waiting for when they did this expansion was we were hoping that they would lower the standard of extreme hardship down a little bit. They didn't do that. So you can get this waiver. Before they expanded it, though, there was one thing that they did good, which was before, if I had a deportation order, so say I came into the country illegally, they sent me right back. So I had a deportation order, or at least I had a bar for 5 years. I was not supposed to come back. But I came back anyway. All right? I came back the second time. This time I didn't get caught. And then I filed for, I got married, I filed for my spouse, and I don't have legal entry, so I have to leave the country. So I have to do this provisional waiver. So what they just did in August is they allowed me to do more than one waiver, because I have two problems right now. I have one, because I've been here illegally for more than 1 year, and if I leave, I can't come back for 10 years. The other problem is they already sent me home once, right? I came into the country, they sent me back, and then I came again. So that's another problem. That's a prior deportation. And so before this expansion, they said that you can only do this waiver if you have one problem and one problem only, and that's you're here illegally. You can't do it if you have a deportation or something else. What they just did in August is they expanded this, and they said that you can do both waivers. You can do one and then the other, and then you can go back to your country, and then you can do the interview and come back. All right? So what questions do you have?
Thank you so much. It's been very informative. Please, a round of applause for him. And, they say our people suffer for lack of knowledge, and thank God we have a lot of knowledge in here. And We do have a lot of questions. We have papers that are passed around. You can do it anonymously. Once we go over these ones here, then we can give you the microphone if you have one. So I'm going to read them to you. So
Sure, no
because
problem.
I think I can understand their handwriting
Sure.
better. The first one says, what may be the cause of delay in receiving green card after VAWA has been approved? What steps can be taken?
So there can be two reasons why the green card can be delayed after VAWA, which is the program I told you about, which is for Violence Against Women Act, which is not just for women, it can be for men. So if you were married to a green card holder, you have to wait sometimes. Remember I told you I had a case just recently where they had to wait. The VAWA was approved a few months ago and they had to wait. That's one reason. Another reason why it can be delayed is because right now everything is delayed. They're just very slow in immigration. A lot of cases that used to take 6 months are taking 10 months. So that's another reason why it can be delayed. Yes.
Ladies or men, they have their spouses over there in Africa. And in the past, they want to wait to become citizen. Is that necessary again? And how soon could that happen, even if I have green card as at this time?
You don't have to wait. So remember the category that I showed for 2A, which is right now 2-year wait. Okay? And like I said, that category is faster than that. It can be 1 year, it can be a year and a half, it can be 6 months. It moves all the time. And I don't want to confuse anybody, but besides the chart I showed, there's actually another chart that they just created. And this adds more complication. So for example, it's a 2-year wait right now. If someone filed for their spouse and they're a green card holder, it's about a 2-year wait. Okay, it can be less than that, but right now it's 2 years. But what if I told you that the husband came here on visitor visa? Okay, they came here on visitor visa, and say the spouse filed the petition maybe 6 months ago. Okay, this other chart that they created that they don't always use, they tell us every month when they're going to use it. In October, they said that they were going to use it again. Okay, so say I filed for my spouse, and I'm just a green card holder, and I filed 6 months ago, and normally if they just stay there, it's going to take 2 years right now. It could be less, but right now it's 2 years. But say they came on a visitor visa. I might be able to file a lot sooner than 2 years for them for green card, and they won't have to go back because of this other chart. There's this other chart. It's called filing action instead of final action. So it's confusing. That's why I didn't put it up there. But definitely, if you're a green card holder and you want to wait and file for your spouse, you don't have to wait for citizenship. It can be a lot faster.
I have a special one here. It
Yep.
says, sir, is there any hope of becoming an American citizen for somebody who has lost the battle through asylum and at the same time lost his status when the immigration had advised him to leave America, to go back to his country, but he's still living in America till today?
So what I'll tell you is the last slide that we had on the waivers, that's going to be the only way to be able to get it. If, say they're married to a U.S. citizen, or, their son or daughter is a U.S. citizen and they're the parent, they won't be able to get a green card in the country, but they may be able to get a waiver and come back right away. And then after being a green card holder for 5 years, then they can file for citizenship. So this waiver allows you to do it. Unfortunately, you have to show extreme hardship, and that's not an easy standard.
Okay. There's another one, so bear with us. We do have a lot of questions, so you're going to bear, we're going to ask you for your indulgence. We have quite a few questions, and we're still going to take some answers out there. Pastor, please let us know if we still have enough time, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, I got my permanent residence in another state, but now live in Texas. But I've never filed tax before because I didn't get a job, but was doing my own business. The issue now is it's time to put in my 10 years. What should I do? How do I go about it?
10 years or citizenship?
I'm assuming maybe
Okay.
that's what it says, but I'm reading exactly what they have here.
10 years? Okay. Well, I don't understand the 10 years, but if you're a green card holder and you haven't filed tax returns, and if you don't have enough income, you don't have to file tax returns. There's a minimum, requirement that you need to meet to file tax returns. Citizenship is, they don't look for tax returns anymore. They used to, but they don't ask for it anymore. There is a question on the citizenship application that says, have you ever not filed tax returns? Now, if I didn't have enough income, then I don't have to. So that question to me is, only if you were required to do it, did you not do it? No, the answer is no. So, you would still pass citizenship, and they don't ask for tax returns anymore at the interview. When you get your naturalization interview appointment notice, it says, bring your tax returns. You don't need it anymore. Because they stopped asking for it about 4 years ago. They used to ask for it, and then I asked them, why are you asking for it? Because income is not a requirement for citizenship. And they said to me, we need to prove that they were here in the country. And I told them, you can file tax return even if you're in a different country. You don't need that. They stopped asking for tax returns, and they haven't asked for it for 4 or 5 years. So you don't need tax returns anymore.
I'm being corrected. I'm sorry.
People adjusting to be students, they have F1 visas. I think that's the, and they get adjusted right here. But they need to go to Nigeria. I know that you have to go back to the embassy in Nigeria and obtain a visa to come in because you are adjusted in this country. What's the possibility of going to Mexico or Canada to get a visa? Is that possible right now?
Usually if you do that, then they will probably not touch your case. If you're not from Mexico or Canada, they'll probably send you to your consulate. There are exceptions. There's attorneys that I know that specialize in going to those consulates, and they know the officers, and they'll have the officers come out because attorneys are not allowed to go in the consulate anymore. So the consulate officer will actually come out, go across the street to the convenience store and talk to the attorney. There are exceptions to where you can go to Canada and Mexico. It's not often. It doesn't happen that often anymore. It used to. It does, yeah. Right. Right. If they're not from Canada or Mexico, probably not, yeah. And so, again, remember the 2 ways you can get a visa. Inside the country, if you're here in status, or consular processing.
There's another one. We're going to try to go through them as quickly as we can. Some are similar, and I think he has touched on some of them if you were here earlier. To apply for the U.S. visa, how long can one stay out of status before applying? And if one worked for about 3 years in different places and no incident happens in the place of work, can one apply? Says to apply for the U.S. visa, how long can one stay out of status before you can apply? And if one worked for about 3 years in different places and no incident happens in the place of work?
No incident means you can't apply for U visa. The answer to the first question is, it doesn't matter how long you want to be out of status. There's no restriction. But if nothing happened to you, then you're not going to qualify for U visa.
And you will have a chance if the answer doesn't meet exactly. Hopefully we'll have some time at the end. We'll pass the mic around after we go through these questions. And the next one, can your siblings file for you? How long can it take for a green card holder sibling to file for one?
How long does it take for a sibling?
Said 15 years, right? 12 to 15 years.
Yeah, she got it.
Now, can I obtain the ITIN or EIN number from IRS if I register a DBA in USA while I hold B1, B2 visa? I know he's an immigration attorney, but
Yeah, no, that's a question I get a lot. You should be able to, an ITIN number, it doesn't substitute for a social security number, but if you can qualify for an ITIN, and oftentimes the IRS will ask a lot of questions, but you should be able to get an ITIN. I am a CPA, but I don't practice it, so you can always talk to a CPA, but you should be able to get an ITIN. They do ask questions sometimes, though.
Social Security number. In the past, the IRS will give you a number. Is that still happening up to now? I can stop by the IRS and apply for a tax identification number that looks like SSS.
So the tax identification number, so for example, again, if you're here in the country, even if a person is out of status, they're still supposed to pay taxes. How are you going to pay taxes if you don't have a social security number? Tax identification number is a solution to that. So if you want to pay taxes but you don't have a social security number, then a TIN number is what you're supposed to get. And you should still be able to get it. It's not as easy as it used to be, but you can still get a TIN number. If they use it, then they're not supposed to, and it probably won't work, but they can try. You can use it, yeah. Right. 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 Tax identification number, yeah, that's what it's for.
Okay, here looks like we might have it in two. It said for someone that came in with a B1, B2 visa, after 3 months then filed for F1 visa, is it also possible to apply for asylum?
It is.
Okay.
It is. I have a case.
And then for somebody that has a U.S. valid driver's license, can you put in for Social Security?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
All right. Another one here, sir. So I have 2 children that are citizens. I came in legally. If I stay longer than my I-94 date, how can I file to become legal? And then I guess the second part says my I-94 date expires next week, Tuesday. Can I still file for an extension?
So the first question is immediate relative, they're parent of a U.S. citizen. If the U.S. citizen son or daughter is 21 or older, they can file for you even if you're out of status. As long as you have legal entry, you can get a green card. And then the second question was?
It says my I-95 date expires next week, Tuesday. Can I still file for an extension?
You can, but if you qualify for being an immediate relative, if the child is over 21, then you can file for a green card. You don't have to do the extension.
All right. If I have a child in the U.S., can I, as the mother, ask for a work permit or a residence permit? That's kind of similar.
If the child is not 21, then you're not going to get any benefit.
Is there any age barrier? Like you mentioned, can they file? So let me put it this way. If you have a child, is there any age the child has to be able to file for you?
21.
21. So if your child turns 18, then you still have to keep waiting. Okay. All right.
It's been 21 for a long time in immigration.
I have 17 years experience in IT telecoms with proven track record. I'm in the U.S. with my family on B1, B2, and decided to register my business name in the United States to do business. Same business name as I have in Nigeria. My aim is to do business. What type of visa would I require, and how long will it take, and what are the basic requirements? My ultimate goal is to settle with my family here in the U.S. and do my business here while I have someone to oversee the one in Nigeria. My status is still legal on B1, B2.
So there's not a quick fix for a lot of people. It's not like I come in on B1, B2 and I'm going to be able to get my green card in 3 or 6 months. So you probably have to apply for a temporary visa first. For that one, If they have a company outside of the U.S., maybe an L1 might work. It depends on what country. Maybe they can do something called E2, which is only available for people from certain countries. But what they're going to have to do is, if they want to stay here, they're going to have to meet one of the temporary visas that they can do, and then maybe later on they can get a sponsor for a green card.
Okay, and at least the last one of all these, the anonymous ones we have here. For those people that came to visit, and I left this one as the last one, and then we'll take some questions. Visiting in this year, 2006, what can they do to avoid deportation? They are here visiting.
Since 2006?
No, in this year. They came in this year to visit, but they probably like it, and they want to stay. They're saying, what can they do to avoid deportation?
They're going to have to, if they're still in status, yeah.
It doesn't trump them.
If they're still in status, then you can try for an F1 or an L1 or something else, and then later on go for a green card. So, I mean, if you're in status, you have options. If you're not in status, it's much more difficult.
And I will say on that last one in here, we probably can't handle everything in here, but you see, we had his information up there. So if you need more detailed questions, he's here. He's part of us, and we take him as one of our men in here. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Now let me ask Pastor, do we have some more time to take any questions, if anybody has any questions? While he's here, do you have a question? Okay.
My card is up here also. If you have questions that you want to ask later on, you can do that too.
Yeah, thanks, sir.
Sure.
Quick one. If someone came in with a B1, B2 and filed for F1, which is I-539, and why the case is being handled, because I understand it takes
6 months.
Yes.
Yep.
What happened if the I-94 expired before the matter is settled?
It's fine. As long as you filed the I-539 before your I-94 expired,
Yes.
you're okay, even if it's pending beyond that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Good question. About 10 months. In Houston, about 10 months. Right. 10 months to get it, yeah.
Anybody else that has a question? Okay, I'll go 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, so if somebody who came in on B1, B2 like that, and they had done adjustments, a status adjustment to F1, is right in school, I understand can file for the spouse on F2.
Right.
How long will that take? And can that person adjust status again to get a green card to stay? Because what we understand is that she will have to leave after the F1 as well as after school or something like that. Or can she still stay in here and change status and file for a green card?
So the first question was, can you do it for your spouse, how long it takes? If they're here legally, then it takes maybe 6 months to get the F2 for the spouse. Second question is, can you apply for a green card? You have to qualify for the green card.
What?
F1 is not going to qualify you for a green card.
Okay,
You have to do family base or an employment base or asylum base or diversity visa, and then you can get a green card. And you can do that while you're waiting. And as long as you're in some other status, you can stay. But an F1 by itself, being a student, doesn't get you a green card. Okay.
After your education, I understand that the government allows you to stay at least for 2 years. You look for a job and probably sponsor your visa or green card. Is that right?
Not really. If you get an F1, you can get what's called OPT, which is practical training. So you can get a work permit for 1 year, and you might be able to get more than 1 year depending on what your degree was in. So STEM, which is science, technology, mathematics, engineering, you can get more than 1 year. But if you finish your OPT and you didn't find a sponsor to sponsor you and you haven't gotten far enough in your green card or you haven't done an H-1B, then you won't be able to stay. But OPT allows you to stay a little bit afterwards. Right. Then you look for a sponsor and you can get a green card. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. We came in a bit late. Can you please expatiate on F1 and L1? Yeah.
F1 is a student visa, and you basically have to get admission to a school and get what's called an I-20, and then you can file for an F1. And you can file for your spouse and your children to get F2. And L1 is very, very different. L1 is you have a company outside of the U.S., it's running, you have a company inside of the U.S. that it's common ownership. You own that one and you own this one, and you're going to transfer from that one to this one. So L1 is very different, but I can tell you more. I mean, I have articles on it, and I can tell you more if you need to know more on L1. But it's very different from F1.
Somebody has a spouse over there in Nigeria and he's here on F1. What can he do right now to bring that man, that woman? What can he do? And how fast could it be? I don't think you answered that question.
All right, so if you get an F1 here and your spouse is over there, you can try to get the F1 at the consulate. Remember, there's 2 ways to get a visa: in-country or out-of-country consular processing. So you can try to get consular processing for your spouse. They may raise issues and say that, where's the person with F1? Bring them over here and we'll give you both the visa. So that sometimes is an issue. But another way you can do it is bring them on a visitor visa and then change their status to F1.
Immigration cannot give a paper right here for the spouse in Nigeria. They already approved him or her here, and if he goes up, she wants to go further and say, okay, my spouse is in Nigeria, can I bring him or her in? He can't do that?
You can't get a paper from here because in the U.S., you're dealing with USCIS. Outside of the country, USCIS has no power. They don't have what's called jurisdiction. They only have power over people here. If a person wants to get something outside of the country, they deal with the Department of State, 2 different agencies. So USCIS can't give you anything for that person. You can apply Department of State, which is the consulate, for the spouse.
I have a question. I have a church member that asked the question. Said she came in with a visa, a B1 and B2. Now, doesn't know which one is the B1 or B2. The child has 10 years. She has 2 years. She said she hasn't done anything to change her status. It's going to expire in November. What can she do?
What's going to expire, the visa or the I-94?
That's a good question. Because I know she said it's going to expire in November. So
So-
she had 2 years.
Okay.
And that 2 years would expire in November.
Yeah, so there's a problem there. So when you come into the country, say I got a visitor visa for 5 years, okay? When I come here, that doesn't mean I can stay here for 5 years. When I come here at the airport, they're going to tell me how long I can stay. And that's your I-94. That controls how long I can stay. They're probably not going to give more than 6 months. Just because your visa is 2 years or even 5 years or 10 years doesn't mean you can stay here the whole time without leaving. It means you can go and come and go and come and during the 5 years or 10 years or 2 years in this case, but you can only stay here as long as the I-94 says you can stay here. If their I-94 hasn't expired, then they can try, F1 is probably not going to work timing-wise for them because it's going to expire in November. Timing is a big issue with F1. So there may not be any other options for her. Maybe L1, I don't know, depending on what the facts are.
There's a question I want to ask. A U.S. citizen whose brother visited here and he falls out of status. That is, he didn't go back again.
Yeah.
Can the U.S. citizen file for him? And if yes, how long will it take?
What's the answer to that question? Can they file for him? Sure, sure. Are they going to get a green card? Probably not, because they're out of status. If you have 245I, then yes, fine. But if I file and it takes 12 to 15 years, that doesn't mean they can stay here for 12 to 15 years, and then after 12, 15 years, they're going to get a green card, because they're not in status. It doesn't allow you to stay here, and if I filed a petition for my brother or sister, fine, the petition's going to get approved. But the petition only is going to be approved because I proved that that's my brother. It doesn't mean that they're eligible for a green card. If you're not legal, then you're not eligible for a green card. If you qualify for 245I, which we talked about, then you can pay the penalty, and then you can do it. Now, after 12 to 15 years, and they're still here, then they can move their case out of the country to the consulate and get a waiver, and then they can come back in. But they cannot get a green card while staying in the country unless they meet 245I. Okay? What other questions?
Sorry, still continuity to that question. While filing for your sibling, will that sibling be given social work or something?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
While filing for the sibling you filed for,
Yes?
will that sibling be given social work?
Social Security to work. So if
work permit, while waiting for that 12, 15 years, long time.
they won't get anything for 12 or 15 years through that. It's just a placeholder. It's just your place in line. It doesn't get you a work permit. It doesn't get you a green card. It doesn't get you a social security number until that 12 or 15 years, and then you can file for a green card, and then you can get all of those things.
Okay. 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 Just one very quick question.
Sure.
For a person who is not interested in probably applying for citizenship, is there any maybe restrictions or limitation on remaining a permanent resident for life?
There is. So there's a lot of different things that I've seen where a green card holder can lose their green card. One is a small crime. Another is if you stay out too long, they can say you've abandoned your permanent residence. So the rule is for a green card, not for citizenship, because we talked about citizenship, where if you stay outside for more than 6 months, you won't qualify for citizenship. But for green card, if you stay outside for more than 1 year on your green card without coming back, without getting what's called a re-entry permit, then you lost your green card. Okay? If you have a green card and you leave for 5.5 months and you come back for a week and you go again for 5.5 months and you come back for a week, eventually they're going to catch up to it and they're going to say, do you really live here? And it happens all the time. I get calls from the airport and they're stuck at the airport and I can't do anything because even though they're here in the U.S., they don't qualify as being in the U.S. unless you passed immigration, so you don't have a right to an attorney yet. And so they'll take your green card away. And so what they do is, for those people who have shown that they come and go, and they don't stay here that much, they stay outside, eventually they give you a warning. And they say, look, next time you do this, you go without a re-entry permit, I'm taking your green card away. So you can lose your green card. It's permanent resident. So that means if you live here, you're fine. And you don't have any crimes or anything, you're fine. But you can lose the green card. But if you don't do anything to, abandon your status or commit a crime or anything like that, then just because the card expires in 10 years doesn't mean your status expires in 10 years. You can always renew it. And I've had people that didn't know they had to renew it, and they renewed it after 10 years, and they still got it because the card is just, it's not really the end of your status. It's kind of just the expiration of the card, and you can always get another one. But to answer your question, yes, you can lose the green card if you stay out too long or other things.
I know we do have a lot of questions. We're probably running out of time. We're going to take this last one here, and it probably might be around. Maybe you might still be able to take some questions. I know some people have told me that they want some answers, that the questions were not complete or they didn't understand the answer. So, but we can't do it all night long. I know it's a very important topic, and I'm so happy at least people have turned out. Hold on, let's take this last one.
Hello. My question goes this way. When you're out of status, like your I-94 is, it's gone, it's due, like you're out of status with your I-94, what else can you do to retain your stay?
So I gave a few exceptions to the rule where if you fall out of status, there's certain ways to get back in, but there's not that many. Married to a U.S. citizen or you're an immediate relative, it doesn't matter if your I-94 is expired. U visa, it doesn't matter if your I-94 expired. 245I, it doesn't matter. But other than that, you're really out of luck if your I-94 expires. Those are the only ways to get back into status. Okay?
A round of applause again for our special guest here. Thank you so much, Anthony, Rihanna, Ali. We do appreciate everything.
What can Obama do for those, as he exits out of office? Because I know that he has some powers to pass some legislation that could probably affect numerous number of people. What can he do even as he exits from the presidency?
He can try to do some policy, but, again, the president's power is pretty limited, and he tried. He tried to do it. He has DAPA, which would have given status to about, say, 4 million people, and it was blocked. So if Congress is not on your side, then there's really not much the president can do. He can try to do it again, but I don't see if it would do any benefit because it'll probably get blocked again. 245I. He did 245I. Yeah. But 245I wasn't just Clinton. It was Congress who passed it. So he might have pushed it. He did, but Congress is the one who wrote it into law. And 245I is still there, and that's the law you're talking about. Bill Clinton did. Yeah.
As a personal note, I use 245I too. So all this information you're listening to, very, very essential. Because I use that myself. Well, I came in with a DV lottery, but I used it for a family member. So we're going to give another round of applause for Attorney Ali. Thank you so much. God will bless you for what you've done for us. We, the men and the entire Church of Isaac generation, really do appreciate. Another round of applause again, please. And I know we passed this card around to you, and I don't know if you'll be willing to answer more questions when we finish, but that's entirely up to you. He said he's okay, so you might want to maybe wait at the foyer. You might be able to do that and still get some follow-up answers. And now we're going to give it to Pastor, and then we're going to do our offering. Remember, we have to give offering, give thanks, so every time you're in front of the Lord.
I'm going to ordain this man a pastor very soon. Amen. Praise God. I want to say a special thanks to Avian Ali Mohammed, wonderful friend. Amen. He's our attorney. Anytime I have issue, I'm calling him. It doesn't matter when I call him. Even on Sunday, I've called him several times on Sunday when he's supposed not to be at work. And he will take my call and will give us whatever legal advice we need. One more time, we want to say thank you to you for being there for us at all times. Please, you have his card. Please refer people to him. If you have any question, please call him. The only code you need to give him is Pastor Shola. When you say Pastor Shola, he will give you discount. God bless you, Rian. It is well with you. Amen. So come and take over and collect your offering.
Yeah, to help us with our offering, our esteemed brother here, our brother Akinwale.
Praise the Lord.
Offering time.
Praise the Lord. Offering time. Brethren, we have been richly blessed tonight. And I want to let you know that if you go and see an immigration lawyer, you pay a consultation fee of nothing less than $70. So this God has given to us for free. So let's give back in return. Okay?
All around, everywhere I look, your love is all around. Everywhere I